Welcome back to Graphic Content. This is episode 2, also recorded on June 14th, 2016. I'm Jim.
I am Adam Messinger.
My last name is Mason, for full disclosure. Just I don't want Adam to feel like I'm disclosing any less than he does.
Oh, I don't judge.
Okay, well, thank God for small favors. So what we're going to do in episode 2 is we decided we wanted to break it down a little bit, and we're going to go week by week with the Rebirth titles. We're going to talk about what we liked, we're going to talk about what we didn't like, and then give it a 1 to 5 star rating. And we might use fractions.
We may use fractions. So for all you people that sat in math class and said, I'm never going to use fractions, guess what? We're using fractions.
We're using fractions. I guess somebody should have paid attention in math class in junior high school. So here we go. We're going to talk about the first week of Rebirth titles. I'm going to list the 4 titles first, and then we'll go into it. We have Batman Rebirth number 1. Mm-hmm. We have Superman Rebirth number 1. We have Green Lanterns, that's plural, Rebirth number 1. And we have Green Arrow, Rebirth number 1.
Yeah, so, they went into it pretty heavy.
Week 1 was a 4-title release week. They really wanted, because they only released, it was the week of Rebirth. All we had was Darkseid War, the conclusion, Justice League 50? 50? Okay. 50, and then the end of the Superman.
Well, I think that all came about a week before. One happened a week before Rebirth. The other happened about a week after the Rebirth special.
Okay. Well, anyway, the point is that this is the first pure week of Rebirth titles that we've had since the Rebirth special. That not including those other things.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it. Batman Rebirth number 1. Who was the creators on that?
Tom King and Mikel Janin.
Okay. I have to admit, Tom King, we were just talking about this before we started recording this. I haven't read much from Tom King except for Sheriff of Babylon, which I think is a work of art. I wasn't a huge fan of his Nightwing stuff, although I know...
Grayson,
excuse me. Not Nightwing. Well, he's Nightwing again. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I wasn't a huge fan of his Grayson stuff. It just didn't float my boat. The New 52 in general didn't float my boat. So I'm relatively new to Tom King land. And Janin?
No, Mikel Janin.
Mikel Janin.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Has he had his work published in other places before?
He started out at DC during Flashpoint doing... the High Flying Grayson. It was the Dick Grayson book set in the Flashpoint universe. And from there on out, he started with Justice League Dark.
Right.
And then he did that for the longest time, and then he's jumped over different places into the DCU where they've needed him. He was previously before Batman, he was helping out Peter Tomasi on the Superman books during their last hurrah with New 52 Superman.
Was he doing like fill-in work or like ghosting, or he was just doing full-on issues?
Yeah,
he
was doing full-on issues. He had a really long run of Justice League Dark. He started with issue 1, and he for the majority of the first 25 issues, he was the artist.
Okay.
Even as they had writers switch in and out.
Okay. Well, cool. What were your high points from that issue?
Mikel Janin.
Okay.
I liked him a lot. I thought he brought a lot to the issue. Mm-hmm. My other thing I liked was Calendar Man.
I'm gonna go into what I like now. Okay. I liked Mikel Janin quite a bit. I like that the voice for Bruce Wayne didn't feel off to me after not reading Batman books for so long. So I felt like Tom King did a really good, well done job with the dialogue, the voice of the characters.
That's something I didn't even think about. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was not reading a Batman book.
Exactly.
Some writers who are new to that book, it's like, no, you're just writing a tough guy wearing a mask. I felt like he was Bruce Wayne. Mikel Janin, again, to me, he's kind of a discovery. I would flip through Justice League Dark and say this is kind of cool, but I wasn't, again, I gotta say, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, the New 52 left me cold. So, I was reading like Jonathan Hickman's Avengers books for my superhero fix, books in that category. So I wasn't paying attention to a lot of DC at that time. So I really like that. I never read We Are Robin, so being introduced to Duke Thomas was interesting. I like the design of his suit, but I don't know what the hell he's supposed to be called in a yellow Batman suit.
Yeah.
Bat Lifeguard? I don't know.
Yeah, I can, to be honest, I forget that I sound like a dick saying this, but I forget that We Are Robin is a book 90% of the time because it's so far off my radar.
Yeah.
And whenever they brought him in, the Duke Thomas, I really took me about 5 or 6 pages to really figure out. I thought it was a new character.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out, oh no, wait a second, this is the guy from We Are Robin. Yeah,
I read a solicitation that mentioned him from being a character from We Are Robin, so that's the only reason why I knew anything about it. And Calendar Man as a concept before, again, like in the last episode I said I'm twice as old as Adam, so I remember the old Calendar Man. The old Calendar Man was terrible. I mean, he was horrific. He would be a guy who would dress in different costumes for different holidays to commit crimes. Like Cinco de Mayo, he would dress as a mariachi with a domino mask.
Oh my gosh.
For Christmas, he'd dress as Santa Claus. He wore a bunny suit. He just wore terrible things. And then they decided, okay, enough with the gimmicks. We need like an iconic look for Calendar Man. So they gave him this floppy kind of outfit with tear-off calendar numbers on either shoulder.
Yeah.
And it was just I like the Ten-Eyed Man better than I liked Calendar Man, okay?
Yeah.
But in this book, they made Calendar Man one of these sort of quasi-mystical, unknown, weirdo Doom Patrol kind of characters, I guess is the best way for me to put it, where he's a guy who sheds his skin literally once a year. Like, he goes from being really, really young to really, really old inside of a year.
Yeah. I thought it was really fascinating, their take on him. The fact that he... and in this, they were stating that his time frame was messed up.
Okay.
If I recall correctly.
That's right. And then the seasons themselves in Gotham were off because Calendar Man was off.
Yeah. And that was a very fascinating plot point to me.
Yeah, I love that. Sorry, I had a little bit of dry throat at the time for the viewers going, why is there dead air here? So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that the book did not shy away from things that the Batman books of the 90s did. I mean, Calendar Man is just straight up magic now. So I thought that was interesting. I think that the only real drawback for me on the book that I can possibly think of right now is the fact that, it seemed like it was a book that was, instead of being reborn, was kind of in media res. I think that, we had the Scott Snyder, he was the big writer, the Snyder Coppola run, and it was this big thing, and it just ended recently. And I felt like this was the next issue after that. I didn't feel enough preamble.
If I recall
tying
correctly,
into Rebirth, just for me.
He co-wrote it. If I recall,
did he?
Yeah, I believe Snyder co-wrote it. So that would make sense.
You have to understand, folks, we don't have these comic books right in front of us. We're just talking about the comics that we've read, and maybe I totally forgot that part. I'm going to have to look back and read that. But I felt like, if anything, that was the only thing is that it was too much of a continuation from the New 52. It would have been nice to see more of a ground zero approach. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a slight, and I'm saying it's a slight knock. This is a book that I'm going to be following. I think this is the first book since Sheriff of Babylon came out from Vertigo that I'm going to start following on a singles basis.
Okay. For me, and this is my complaint with a lot of the Rebirth books, and it's an across-the-board thing, is I feel like...
Tell you what, I'm going to record this, and then when it comes to your comments on the other 3 books for this week, I'm just going to replay it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, no,
No, but this is your... Okay.
My across-the-board kind of feeling was that we got a lot of nice epilogues and prologues with no real story from front to back. I felt like it just kind of laid out groundwork. There was no beginning and middle and end to the issue, which I would like a story in a comic book.
Okay.
And while they do some great character development, I felt like Batman kind of suffered from not having a beginning, middle, and end. I felt like more so than any of the other books, it had the cohesiveness of the story, because you had Calendar Man as the main threat.
True.
But it was I want to say it was like one of the only ones that really, to me, told a story in a comic.
Okay.
And I liked that aspect. I didn't think it succeeded 100% in that, but it was still nice to have. Okay, not only are we seeing Batman through the eyes of this new guy, but we're seeing we're actually combating a threat.
Yeah. And going right into that.
Absolutely.
So that being said, what do you give it?
I give it a solid 3 stars.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I am with that too. I think it's a good beginning. Again, a little bit more meat on the bones. I think is essentially we're coming at it from 2 different angles, but
yeah.
the book needs some more meat. We need some more story, and I think that once you get past these Rebirth specials, essentially these Rebirth #1s, then you can get into your multi-issue arcs. And that's probably where we're going to see the bulk of that flavor come from. So, going after Batman, I mean, we say it all the time. What comes next after Batman is Superman. And it's Superman Rebirth #1 by Dan Jurgens?
No, that's Action Comics.
That's Action Comics.
It was co-written by Pat Gleason and Pete Tomasi.
Yes.
And I want to say Doug Mahnke drew it?
He drew it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if Gleason drew it.
No, it was definitely Doug Mahnke that drew
it.
So next time I think we're going to actually bring the comics in front of us.
That would probably... You know what? I'm just going to open up my phone.
Okay. He's going to...
we live in the 21st century. And just have this information on hand.
Forgive us, folks. We're still new at this. So Superman Rebirth #1. We have the Superman... Superman, the new 52 Superman... died. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
And with the new 52 Superman, there was also hanging around the continuity, thanks to Convergence, the pre-Flashpoint Superman, what I know is the John Byrne Superman.
Yes.
Him, Lois, and their young son, John Kent, survived the end of the Convergence storyline, now live in whatever we're calling the post-Rebirth DCU.
Yes.
Okay. So
for me, Superman, I had a lot of issues with Superman.
Okay.
Let's
let's give a little foundation in case you haven't read the post-Convergence Superman title, Superman, Lois, and Clark. That was about a black, Superman put the black suit with the silver S logo on again, and secretly fought crime and secretly took care of the stuff that the new 52 Superman couldn't take care of. Did I sum up the series in a nutshell?
To be honest, I didn't read it, so
okay,
probably.
So there you go.
Probably.
So anyway, we're going to start with negatives on this one just to change it up a little bit.
You know what? I'll start with the positive.
Okay.
Doug Mahnke's art.
Always good.
Phenomenal.
Always good.
Phenomenal. I believe Christian Alamet inked him, and they did. Here, as I said, I can look it up. It was really good, a great looking comic. They do flashbacks to the death of Superman from the 90s, and
which looks torn from the Dan Jurgens panel. I mean,
it was definitely a homage to that era of Superman.
I mean, if you know Dan Jurgens' art style, and you know Doug Mahnke's art style, to think that Doug Mahnke can draw like Dan Jurgens,
not even close.
I mean, it's amazing.
Apples and oranges.
It's amazing that he drew that panel. Anyway,
and it looked beautiful, and to see that kind of stuff jump out, I thought was a lot of fun. But going into the negative, it was it relied way too much on the fact that you were reading Pete Tomasi's Superman run going into this with the last days of Superman, I believe it was called.
I think that even continues on from my criticism of Batman, as I felt like I had to read the Rebirth. I had to read the however many 6-8 issue crossover. It's like the League of Superman or the Super League, whatever that story was. Yeah. Like I felt like I had to read all of that, and that this book, The Rebirth, which is supposed to be the kicking off point, as I understood the pitch.
Yes.
That was supposed to be the point where we get brand new.
And while they do transition into the New 52 Superman becoming Superman, deciding that maybe he might want to be Superman.
Deciding that he might want to be... He didn't even decide.
That's true.
And to me, it was coda for Super League. It was coda for the Superman book that was before Rebirth.
Yes.
And that was... I mean, look, I have the same love of Doug Mahnke that you do. To me, he was the one who got me to read Joe Kelly taking over from Mark Waid on JLA years ago.
Yeah.
I loved him on the Green Lantern books that he did.
Yes, that was great.
Doug Mahnke is a freaking genius, and this guy should really be put up there in the pantheon of some of the hottest artists working today. He always seems like he comes under the radar for me for some reason, in terms of popularity. I think Doug Mahnke, his line work is genius, and I thought that in particular that he didn't use those heavy borderlines that he uses with his figure drawing this issue, which I thought was a real evolution in his style, and I really, really love that. But I could not get past the fact that this was a coda for what had come before. This should have been for what starts now, and there was some of that.
Yeah.
But you only got 4 or 5 pages of it.
Yeah. So plot-wise, I really felt like it suffered. Again, with the character development, you had a really good conversation between Superman and New 52 Lana Lang. I felt like there was a lot of good character building, a good character-driven issue. But I want some plot. I would like some plot, please.
Well, and if you're not going to give me a full story, give me the launch bait for what I'm to expect going forward.
Absolutely.
Set it up, tee it up, and then take a swing. I want to see, introduce to me your supporting characters. Introduce to me, some of the villains in the background. Do you remember when Jeff Johns, anytime he would take over a book, and he would do a number 1, he would have a panel from a year later in the book, like he would tease where the story is going. He did that with Black Hand when he did the post Rebirth Green Lantern, and he did it in Flash
with Flashpoint.
Yeah, he did all of that stuff, and I'm not asking for that, but I'm just asking for pick a full story or pick a setup for the story that you're going to tell.
Yes.
Because I understand specials and summer events and all that stuff. I'm a longtime comics reader, so you get a lot of forgiveness from me in advance.
Yes.
But to me, this was a book that was strictly coda for what had come before, and for that reason, I'm going to give this book a 2 out of 5 on my 5-point scale.
Okay. I would go, because ultimately it was enjoyable for what it was, even though it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I'd give it a 2.5.
Okay. And you know what? I don't want to be unfair. And if anybody's thinking that I'm hating on Peter Tomasi to me is a genius. I loved him on Green Lantern Corps, pre-New 52.
Yes.
Aquaman, when he was doing the whole Sub Diego stuff with Patrick Gleason. Do you remember Sub Diego?
He didn't do that.
Yeah, he did.
That was Tomasi?
That was Tomasi.
I don't think that was Tomasi.
That was Tomasi and Patrick Gleason.
I'm looking up.
He's going to look it up and try to...
I think it was Will Pfeiffer.
I think...
I
could be wrong. I remember it definitely being Patrick Gleason doing the artwork for it.
Let's see, that was...
He's probably right. I'm probably wrong. Seems that Adam has a better memory than I do.
I have horrible memory. Like, I write music, and a lot of my music is based on repetition because I have terrible memory.
Okay.
But you give me any comics, any
like that's your like I'm going to lose at bar trivia to you as far as comics go, right?
And, unfortunately, I can stick all that stuff in my brain, and I'll remember creative teams. I'll remember stuff that doesn't really matter.
I see how it goes.
Let's see. That was.
See, we're both going to our smartphones right now.
I was going to say, I know Ostrander wrote the bumper between the two issues.
That's right. You're right. God damn it, it was Will Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
And then later it was John Arcudi.
That's right.
I was reading the book at the time.
Okay.
So.
That's right. Well, not Peter Tomasi, but Patrick Gleason, who's one of my favorite artists, he left Green Lantern Corps to go do Aquaman and yada yada.
So
anyway, the point is that
it has a good creative team.
It has a good creative team, and Peter Tomasi wrote his Batman and Robin run.
Yes,
we can agree. I remember that.
Oh my gosh, was it Born to Kill?
Yes,
was the first volume of that. Yeah, it completely blew my mind.
We can go forever on that.
Yeah,
but let it be. I just don't want it to go unsaid that I love Peter Tomasi. I'm looking forward to what Peter Tomasi is going to do with Superman. I just wasn't in love with this book.
Yeah, I figured while it didn't succeed as a rebirth. I think it definitely succeeded in laying the groundwork for what's going to come, and what hopefully character-wise will be the groundwork in the actual Superman book, and provide a nice little bump of familiarity when you go into that issue 1.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I'm definitely going to keep my fingers crossed.
So what's up next, Joe?
Well, what's up next is Green Lanterns Plural Rebirth #1, featuring the 2 newest Green Lanterns, Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. Jessica Cruz, we know, is the poor woman that was recruited during Darkseid War by Power Ring. The evil creature Volthoom took her, put the ring on her finger because she had the ability to show great fear, and she was neat. I thought she was a cool character from the start in Darkseid War, and to see her join the ranks of the Lanterns, I thought was a really neat touch at the end of. Or at the beginning of this book.
Did you read the entirety of Darkseid War?
Yes.
Okay, I only read Justice League 50.
Okay.
So I'm interested to hear what you have, because you know this character as to where I just saw the last.
I mean, essentially, she was recruited to be the anti-Green Lantern. She was a fearful recluse with who had an agoraphobic.
Okay.
Who refused to leave her apartment after severe trauma. You should read Darkseid War and Trade, because Jeff Johns was writing big ass superhero comics at the height of his power at this one. So I'm definitely going to recommend the trade to you when it comes out. And she was able to fight off the power of Volthoom, which is a parasitic entity from Earth 3 that lives inside the green power ring from that parallel Earth.
Well, saying that makes sense to me why she was recruited now as a Green Lantern, because if she's able to fight that off, of course she's got great will.
Exactly. And they used, and again, you start seeing, like we were talking in the previous episode about Titan's Hunt, about how that showed kind of the secret teases of something big on the horizon. Well, Justice League did that through the Darkseid War and the introduction of Jessica Cruz.
Okay.
You can kind of see early on that this girl was going to be on a trajectory. This woman was going to be on a trajectory for a real spotlight moment. I wasn't sure if she was just going to shake off the power of Volthoom and be consumed by it in the end. But with Hal Jordan's coaching, she was able to come out on the other side as a real hero.
Definitely.
And not just Hal Jordan. I will also say Cyborg played a big part in her coming out story as well, coming out as a superhero. Okay, so I would definitely recommend you read this. I want to keep, because Darkseid War is relatively has just finished relatively soon enough that I want to give people a chance who haven't read the final issue, been following it. But there are definitely points in that book where you can make fun of it. There's points when that book kind of, I think, pokes fun at itself a little bit, at the sheer absurdity of superheroes and new gods and things like that. But overall, I thought that book was a gas. It was the only New 52 book I was getting at one point, was Justice League. Excuse me. So, but Jessica Cruz, character that came out of that with the whole mess with the Crime Syndicate of America and the whole thing like that, and then to come out on top as a Green Lantern in this book, I'm like, fantastic. And to see her star in a book, also the first female Green Lantern from Earth.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, you've had Arissa
and Saronic Natu and Kat Matui and Charisma from the old Green Lantern Honor Guard in the old Joe Staten days. Dude, I can go on. Boudica?
Yeah.
Oh, Boudica, come on. I mean, get out. Okay, Princess Iolanda.
Yeah,
you know,
I never thought of that.
But she is the first Earth-based Green Lantern, first female Earth-based Green Lantern,
and that's definitely going to add an interesting element to the book for me now. As I said, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
and this was actually co-written by Jeff Johns and Sam Humphries.
Yes,
with art by Ed Benez and Ethan Van Sciver splitting duties.
Yep. I've never been turned off by Ed Benez's artwork. I mean, there's been better stuff than some that he has done, but I've never been fully turned off by him.
Did that remain the case here?
It did. It did fully. To me, and then to finish it out with Ethan Van Sciver at the Sciver, I don't know how to say his name. I'm so sorry. Ethan Van Sciver never sucks.
Yes.
He never, ever sucks. This book was a win. I mean, I know that Jeff Johns technically co-wrote it. I think he was probably just plotting it more than anything else. I think the bulk of the heavy lifting with the writing chores was on Sam Humphries. And, he's a guy that I didn't know very well beforehand, but I found that I was reintroduced well to Jessica Cruz and her new life as a Green Lantern. I was introduced for the first time truly to Simon Baz, because I wasn't reading Green Lantern at the time that book came out. I really liked the interpretation of Simon Baz, and just some of the fact that he is on a short leash with the government, short leash with the U.S. government for obvious reasons. He is an American-born Muslim, which. Now, talking about this, we're recording this a few days after the Orlando shootings, and so it resonates even more now that I think of this.
Unfortunately.
So the government's got him on a short leash, but at the same point they want him to be a Green Lantern. It's just the U.S. government wants to know what's going on with the Green Lanterns. It's the U.S. government's trying to nose their way into galactic affairs.
Oh my gosh.
Which, if you're to characterize the U.S. government, is something the U.S. government would probably want to do.
It's kind of surprising they haven't done it more.
Yeah, I mean, really. So I found his character to be great. I also found the fact that they're sort of like fussing siblings when they both go to, they're both called.
Yes.
And, without giving too much of the story away, they start saying, hey, I'm the Green Lantern of Earth. No, I'm the Green Lantern of Earth. And then who shows up? Hal Jordan shows up.
And when you said Jeff Johns
go ahead.
Was the whole Darkseid War thing established her and had established the relationship with Hal Jordan, my thought is he probably wrote that scene where Hal Jordan shows up and says, no, get over your problems because you guys are both going to work as a team.
You are the partners for Sector 2814.
Yes.
While I try to go to find, here's a revelation. The whole Green Lantern Corps is missing.
Now, I don't know what happened with the Guardians. What was going on there?
You got me. It was all in the New 52. So,
okay.
Hey, for our readers out there, if you want to put it in the comment section below, or hit us up on the Twitter or the Facebook and let us know if the Green Lantern stuff that had come before this issue of Green Lanterns Rebirth #1 is worth reading. We'd love to hear your feedback on that.
I know that was a lot of Robert Vendetti's stuff with Hal Jordan.
I tried to read Godhead, because I'm a big Jack Kirby New Gods fan.
You tried.
And I hated it. I mean, I hated it so bad. I did unmentionable things to that comic book. Seriously, you want to know what I did with it? I put it on the stack of magazines, my Entertainment Weeklies that I get.
My gosh.
I just left it there.
That's like a $30 trade.
No. The first issue.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were talking about
I would
the
not
whole
spend
story.
$30 on that piece of shit story. Excuse me. Robert Venditti, I'm sure you're a nice guy. Hopefully you pay your taxes. But you know what? I hated the interpretation of the New Gods in that book. It was infantile. So, I mean, the art was okay, but I just hated that. So that's why I did not commit to reading the rest of the New 52 Green Lantern stuff.
Okay.
Now, I did pick at Lost Army a little bit because Doug Mahnke was involved in that.
Yeah.
And so, I understood that they were shunted off to a parallel dimension or a universe or some kind of finagly bubble. So they went there, and now they're all still trying to get back. There was a miniseries that wrapped it up allegedly, but it's going to...
Oh, and it went into the Edge of Oblivion.
Right.
Okay.
But it's going to be resolved in the future Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns book.
Okay.
And the Green Lantern Corps book. So, but not before we find out that Sinestro and the Sinestro Corps has taken over policing duties for the universe.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is kind of cool.
That is, that does sound pretty cool.
Yeah. So it'll be definitely it'll be a new reign amongst the stars. But for this issue, I mean, I thought that Hal Jordan's way to get them to stop bickering so much. I've never seen this before, but he took each of their power batteries away.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was able to merge them together into one power battery. Say, you guys got to share this.
Yeah, I loved that.
I love that beat. I love that beat so much. And I got to tell you, this is a book. I mean, these two characters are completely blank slates to me. I have no idea what's going to come from this book, except that we know the last page revealing that. We won't give spoilers for that piece, but they're going to have to get very serious about being the defenders of Sector 2814 really quickly.
Now, one thing I was actually that made me laugh was they mentioned several times whenever they kind of start talking after realizing like they're each the defender of the sector. Mm-hmm. And then they mention like, oh wait, there's about a dozen Green Lanterns now protecting Earth, and why does Earth need so many Green Lanterns?
Right.
And that made me laugh because that was one of the things whenever I read Justice League 50, I was like, all right, and we have another Green Lantern for Earth.
Yeah. Why? Well, I think they explained it in, was it Brightest Day? Or was it Blackest Night? It was one of those two miniseries where they basically, where Oa finally, like the Guardians of Oa, finally admitted, no, this is not the center of the universe. Earth is.
Okay, yeah, I think that was Blackest Night.
I think it was Blackest Night, because if Earth falls, that's like in Crisis on Multiple Earths, the DC animated special, mm-hmm. with the wonderful James Woods playing Owlman.
Yeah.
Playing the ultra nihilistic Owlman, where if you take out Earth in one universe, you're going to take out Earth in all the universes. Okay, so Earth has a special, I mean, you're just going to wipe all of creation out of existence. So that's why there's so many Green Lanterns there. It just so happens the two most inexperienced Lanterns in the entire Green Lantern Corps are left with this, which... They're young characters, they're relatively new, they have little backstory, but they have enough to flesh them out as fully fledged characters. But it's going to be like a buddy cop movie meets Star Wars in a way, that they're going to have these, they're going to be facing a threat, possibly from the emotional spectrum, that that will cause these two to have to really learn to work with one another. So it'll have the lethal weapon element on one side. It'll have like the Star Wars kind of Starfighter type, Last Starfighter kind of elements to it. And then I think it's just going to be a good superhero comic book. It'll be good to see these two disparate characters get together.
Yes. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. it's a total. The book, if I recall correctly, is a total of about 3 scenes and a reveal page.
Essentially,
with which it kind of tells a story, but give me a story in a comic book.
But let me just turn this around. And I'm not going to try and change your mind. But to me, it was the anti-Superman Rebirth #1. Whereas this gave me instead of being a coda to a previous series in the New 52, it gave me the establishment of a foundation for where the stories are going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, that's what, again, that was my criteria for this book because, I'm getting a 22-page book for $3.
I think it's 20 pages at this point.
Or 20 pages.
Yeah.
Well, and then the interior adds DC. Boobalus, learn something from Image. Put the advertising at the back of the book.
That's mainstream comics.
I mean, I just can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think we're in the 21st century.
Yeah.
They'll look through the whole book. Don't put stuff right in the middle of the story, okay? I had to get it off my chest. I feel better now.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But I think they give me a foundation to read the book going forward, which Superman did not do for me, unfortunately. So that's why I like it a little bit better in that respect.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and just say that this is my favorite. Like, this was my most enjoyable read out of all the Rebirth books.
Well, that's good news.
I enjoyed this book the most. In fact, I'll give it 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the thing that's keeping it from 5 stars is the fact that I didn't have a start point and an end point. I didn't have. Maybe I guess I'm a traditionalist. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like if you give me a comic book, I want a story in it.
Fair enough, and I think that's a fair conclusion. I wasn't going to give it a perfect 5 for that reason, but I am going to give it a 4.5, which is going to make it my best reviewed Rebirth book to date.
Yeah.
So, good going, guys. I think that they have something. There's a spark between these two characters because, you hear of writers when they write a book that you're doing something when the characters start writing themselves.
Yes.
I could, just jumping into their heads a little bit, I can see how these two characters would write themselves nowadays for that.
Yes. I'm not a big Sam Humphries fan,
mm-hmm.
so I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to go going forward. I wasn't a fan of his Ultimates. I read Our Love Is Real. I didn't see the hype. So for me, this is going to be I'm interested to see if he's grown as a writer and as a storyteller. And his ability to do the character work in this has shown me that it's something I think I might need to start paying attention to.
Yeah, I think so. And I think having Jeff Johns' influence for this first issue, I don't know if he's going to be credited with any co-writing going on.
As far as I know, he's not.
He's not. So I'm really looking forward to Sam Humphries and seeing what Sam Humphries has to offer from this book going forward. I think we've got something potentially, and I want to underline and stress, potentially special here. Potentially special. I think this might be one of the real gems of the new DCU, however you want to call it. I'm just going to start calling it the new DCU.
Yeah.
I really feel good about this. So
absolutely.
Hopefully. So a 4 from Adam, a 4.5, 4.5 from me. That's pretty good. And then we're going to wrap this episode up with a discussion of Green Arrow Rebirth #1. Okay.
Oh wow! You don't see the physical reaction. He said that and then gave this physical, like I couldn't gauge what it was. What are you feeling right now, Jim?
It's me being torn. Okay, I am not an Identity Crisis hater. First.
Okay.
And you're going to say, what the hell does this have to do with Green
That's
Arrow
exactly,
Rebirth #1?
I was like, well,
because Brad Meltzer had the best voice for lefty social justice warrior Oliver Queen, I think, since even before Kevin Smith took over that book. I thought Brad Meltzer's Green Arrow had that edge in his voice.
Archer's Quest.
Archer's Quest, exactly. I remember Green Arrow. Now, this is me being a really little kid. Okay,
You're going to bring up Mike Grell, aren't you?
I'm going to bring up Mike Grell. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
I read the tail end of Hard Traveling Heroes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's my Green Arrow. Okay.
Okay.
My Green Arrow is the super liberal, super socialist, Bernie Sanders supporting, quinoa espousing, lefty liberal who makes the meanest, hottest chili this side of the Rocky Mountains on the whole planet, actually. Forget it. He makes the hottest chili ever. That was his thing during the Mike Grell era.
Oh, okay.
Denny O'Neil, Mike Grell, he was always like, when they were ready to start an adventure, Ollie was either fixing a boxing glove arrow or he was cooking a new pot of like 15 alarm chili that would like burn your mouth out, okay? And so I had my hopes up because I was reading, the solicitation copy and I was watching DC All Access to see their press piece for it. Brandon, the writer, is it Sanderson? The writer of this book?
No, the writer of this is Benjamin Percy.
Benjamin Percy. Okay, sorry. Benjamin Percy. And I was listening to him promote the book that Ollie was going to go back to being a lefty. He was going to go back to social causes and all that. And I was really going to enjoy that. And he was going to reintroduce Dinah, the Black Canary, to him. And there's going to be this big romance. And it just felt, I used the term ham-fisted in the last episode. And God, it's like, how many times did he refer to himself as a social justice warrior? How many times did Black Canary... even Black Canary said, I don't understand why you're, a social justice warrior when you live in this big, rich apartment here in Seattle. It's like, just I'm going to ball up this movement. I'm just going to keep shoving it down your throat until you get it. I was hit over the head of it so much, okay, you're a musician.
Yes.
So then you must have recognized that the girl who was kidnapped at the beginning, her mother, was playing Arlo Guthrie's guitar. It had the Feed the Machine sticker and stuff like that on it. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, yes, there was I felt like there was more of a story to this one. I felt like there was, a departure, fulfillment, return, sort of in the one issue. So I'm definitely going to give Benjamin Percy. I'm going to definitely give him credit for that. But some of the tools, some of the ways he told that story, I really felt like I was drinking medicine halfway through reading the comic book.
Okay.
And I wanted. If you're going to do anything between, having a young Oliver Queen and a young Dinah Lance or whatever, a young Green Arrow, a young Black Canary, I want to know about I want the story, and I'm glad again for the story piece. Okay, don't get me wrong, but I did not feel the chemistry between those two characters.
Really?
Yeah, I just didn't, because I was chugging up social justice after every other page, and I'm like, okay, I get it. There's this big underground slave market in the underground city of Seattle, but I'm like, there are great ideas. I think there was a story there, but I don't want them to just talk about social justice. Social justice is about, not seeing people being disenfranchised at voting booths. It's about, not deporting 11 million illegal immigrants just because they're trying to find another life. All the super lefty talking points, political talking points. I wanted this book to be a little bit more daring and say, what is it that Oliver Queen believes in? Well, Oliver Queen just believes in giving $100 bills to buskers on the side of the street, apparently. That's all I got.
Okay.
So, yes, I like the fact that there was a beginning, middle, end to this story. I'm not going to give it Superman level rating, but he's got to do more with Oliver Queen just saying what he's doing. Oliver Queen has to do what he says he's doing.
So, like, would you say a 3?
Yeah, begrudging 3.
Okay.
Because the story was solid. The story, rescuing a little girl and meeting Black Canary, that in and of itself was solid.
Now, for me, there was a lot going into this book as far as whenever I saw that Benjamin Percy was going to write it, he had been writing Green Arrow since Post-Convergence.
Okay.
And he was the new writer on there. And my big problem with carrying over creative teams, or writers at least, is that you're not going to change anything. You're just going to keep doing what you're doing. And that was kind of whenever I saw that, I was just like, well, it's not really a change. It's just going to be him doing what they're doing. And then when I saw they added the beard, and I was just kind of like, I rolled my eyes because I felt like, all right, I get it. You're trying to tell me it's the old Green Arrow.
He's not the old Green Arrow because he's not using the 8 ounces of beard wax every issue. So,
what else annoyed me was that they specifically took the Arrow character from TV, from the New 52 version.
Right.
Well, why are you going to go back to the bearded guy when he's not the one on TV? That just, business-wise, it didn't make sense to me.
And you know what? As somebody who in the last episode brought up the business angle to the comics industry, I thought that was an interesting layer to it that you just brought into it. Why don't you seek that synergy? Well, season 4 of Arrow was terrible, so I wouldn't want some synergy with that anyway.
Okay.
But no, I know in general what you're speaking of is to have that. I think the synergy with the Arrow TV show is the costuming.
Yes.
Okay, and the overall sun, the goatee look. I think I would prefer staying in the mythical Star City versus going back to Seattle, which was the Mike Grell written and drawn.
Yeah. I was not a fan of Longbow Hunters or any of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm old school. You're new school.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully the twain shall meet somewhere.
Yeah.
I love Star City because it's such a blank slate. You know, and as a writer, you know, I would think that you would want to try to turn, you know, sort of like James Robinson and Starman. Opal City was just as much a character in that book as Jack Knight was. And did you ever read Starman?
I did not read Starman.
Oh my God, I have the first omnibus trade.
Yeah.
So I will loan that to you. You must read that.
I'll read it.
It reads almost like an indie superhero book, I swear to God.
Okay.
But to me, I love mythical cities because Gotham City is a character. Metropolis is a character.
Okay.
And I would love to see Star City get that same kind of treatment. You know, but that's just me.
Plus, you talk about old school and new school.
Yeah.
In my mind, Star City is the place that got blown up in Cry for Justice, and then in Brightest Day, it got
Arsenal. It
got turned into an actual star.
That's right.
So for me, I'm not like saying.
Oh my God, I'm snorting here.
I'm not too torn up over losing that.
Well, that, you know, speaking of James Robinson, that was not one of his best efforts, I think. But,
yeah.
but his Starman work was spectacular, and that was my hope. I didn't expect it to be in Seattle. I guess I just missed it in the solicits. That being said, I'm hopeful for the book. Again, I just want them not to talk about what it is that he believes in. You know, here's my fear: is I want the book because Green Lantern, Green Arrow in the 70s was a controversial book because it talked about race relations in America. It talked about drug use in America. It talked about child abuse in America. It talked about human trafficking in America.
It talked about all the kinds of things back then that nobody would really bring light to.
That's maybe kind of a touchy subject, or that people are kind of scared to read about. I remember a story. I was a fan pre-New 52 of I can't remember who wrote it. You will definitely be able to help me out with this. The New Outsiders book that Tom Rainey did the artwork on.
Oh, Judd Winnick.
Judd Winnick, okay. Not the biggest Judd Winnick fan, but there's stuff that he does that I love. And he did this 2-part Outsiders with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted.
I was reading that at the time with Grace and them finding all the children in the back of the truck.
And didn't you felt like that for just a minute? You know, just the 10 minutes that you spent reading each of those issues, that the book mattered. Just again, I'm making that little thumb to forefinger thimble-sized symbol here. It mattered. The book mattered just a little bit.
I remember I was a teenager when that was coming out. That was one of the first books that I had picked up from DC on my own. And so I'd been following it from the beginning, and I remember when they got that, I saw the solicits for John Walsh. I was like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is going to be heavy-handed, and this is just going to be celebrity guest spot." And it wasn't.
No.
It wasn't. It actually, I felt like it fit the story very well. And when you, outside of that cover, whenever I went to read it, I completely forgot that.
He felt like just any other character in the DCU.
Absolutely.
Who had a specific knowledge of the threat that they were investigating.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the kind of stuff that, I mean, look, when you say social justice and Green Arrow in the same sentence to me, you're setting a pretty high bar, because Denny O'Neil and Mike Grell did it. I mean, they set the standard for that, and I want to see them attack those issues. I want to see them attack inner city homelessness and again, illegal immigration and all the third rail political topics, and I want to see Ollie take a stand, and maybe Dinah takes an opposite stand, or some other viewpoint supporting character take an opposite stand. Have a discussion in this book. Take a stand, corporate comics. You can do this. You have Green Arrow. This is not Batman taking a political stand.
Yes.
This is not Superman taking a political stand. Obviously, we've seen where, remember Batman Way of the Gun?
I didn't read that.
I read it. It was Batman saying, how terrible guns are in schools.
Was it? What was the quality on that?
It was okay, but it was a heavy-handed lecture from Batman why guns are bad. Okay, which of course riled up the NRA and all those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there was Superman renouncing his American citizenship a few years ago.
That wasn't even really a story in canon, and people lost their shit.
I know.
It didn't make sense to me.
But I want stories in canon that will make people think, sort of the way Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cohen did in this book called The Question.
Oh my gosh, I love that book.
High five.
Oh, that book is phenomenal.
That book, The Question, I think might be one of my favorite. It's in my top 3 comics of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I don't know if I liked it that much, but I liked it a lot.
Again, it's one of those things you had to be there when you were waiting for that new issue to come out.
I read it all at once.
Yeah,
so.
it was something, because there was the letters column alone and waiting for the recommended book of philosophy each month.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, The Question. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But The Question wasn't afraid of touching those third rails.
Absolutely not.
And that's what I want for Green Arrow. And so I have high expectations for this book. And I'm not saying that as a lefty. I'm not saying this as a conservative. I'm saying this as somebody who wants something of substance in superhero comics. It's possible. We have seen it. We have seen it in X-Men. We have seen it before in Green Lantern, Green Arrow. We have seen it before in The Question. We can see it again in Green Arrow if Benjamin Percy... Mm-hmm. Oh God, I remembered the name finally. If Benjamin Percy can do that, I really want to see him go for it.
So this book for me had several things going into it, just like I mentioned, the whole Arrow costume synergy. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure going into this if they were bringing back Ollie from pre-New 52 or what they were doing exactly. So going into this, I felt like there wasn't, while a lot of books did epilogues and prologues, this book just gets straight into it, and you got a completely different character, as far as I know, from what had happened. I didn't read the book post-Convergence.
Okay.
But to me, it seemed like a completely different character from the master tactician to this guy in Seattle preaching social justice.
Right.
Not only that, I was reading the Black Canary book at the time.
Oh my God, that book was so good.
And it is, and so I wasn't sure if we were getting just pre-New 52 that, or what the deal was. I wish they would have explained a little more what had happened to bring Oliver Queen as a character to the place he's at.
Good point.
While you mentioned that, in my mind, that this is new to him. Mm-hmm. So I forgave the constant ham-fisted social justice thing as this being new to him and a new thing, that a new passion for him.
Okay.
So I forgave that as something that's just like, this is something I've just become passionate about and is new to me, just as I think we all get about things that are new, that we've just discovered that are very passionate to us.
Good point. Maybe he just realized that he loved Bernie Sanders and moved to Seattle, and he wants to take place in May Day celebration. No, I'm kidding, but I can see your point on that. It's just, this is where my history
Absolutely.
as a comic book fan, I think, got in my way a little bit of fully enjoying that. So that's why I'm saying I'm giving it a solid fresh at three stars out of 5. I just hope that they're not afraid to really go for it.
Yeah.
In this book. So, and what did you rate it?
And I would give it a 3.
Okay.
Otto Schmidt, who did art.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything from him before. I don't know where they found him. But I know Juan Ferreira is going to be doing future issues, and I love his work.
Okay.
And I feel like him and Otto Schmidt are going to create a great continuity between the two of them.
I thought Otto did a real workman's job on that book. I thought it was solid.
Was completely fluid. I felt like his line work it didn't take itself too seriously.
Right, and it was, I can say, in maybe abstract terms, it was soft without being scratchy.
Yes.
Is the best way to put it. And the color palette was fantastic.
Absolutely.
In that book. The color palette, I'm starting to pay more attention to color palettes now than I ever have before, and it looks like DC is really trying to create a color palette for each book to really identify it. So
I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, I am really excited. That's another thing that Rebirth makes me excited for. Sometimes with Marvel, they oversaturate everything that they do, which works for some books.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't work for all of them. But I'm telling you, DC, they're going with a very nuanced approach in their coloring department. And I'm not an artist, but I can tell palettes. I like to look at pretty pictures. Yeah. And their pictures are getting prettier and prettier. So
that's one thing I can say. Out of all these books, they all looked good.
Yeah.
And with this, I found it enjoyable. I was... the fact it was kind of weird for me following Black Canary from I'm a superstar musician into I just fell into Seattle and I'm saving people.
Yeah,
and it was a weird transition that I found for her as a character. Hopefully they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to flesh that out of that transition, or they're just going to completely ignore it.
I'm going to go back and look for it. But if she said her band was taking a break.
That's not how Black Canary ended at all.
And no, it isn't, because I was reading that book also. Yeah. Remember, last issue we were talking about the unfortunate passing of Darnell Cook, and how his Teen Titans variant cover of the Teen Titans as a band made me think of how great a superhero rock band team would be. Well, you almost had that. You had sort of that flavor in the Black Canary book pre-Rebirth, and it was Black Canary and Gotham Academy. I think they came around the same time.
Yeah.
And Gotham Academy, I can't wait to get into that book once we start reviewing regular titles again. I am so looking forward to that. Anyway, I digress. But, I have hope. I have real hope for this book. So I guess my seizure at the beginning of this review made it look worse than it is. Just please, just give me an Ollie. Give me the reasons why he cares about specific things, and then we'll have a book for the ages, I think.
Absolutely, and it'll be nice to see that voice in the character again.
Yep, it'll be nice to see that voice in corporate comics again.
Yeah, we haven't really had that period.
Every once in a while, you get something. Every once in a while, you get a Captain America monologue or a Superman monologue, but you don't see books that stand for something a whole lot
on a consistent basis.
The last book I can say it did that was The Question, and that's been a while.
That's probably why I can't think of a book.
That's honestly so. Best of luck to Percy and his art team. I think you're doing the Lord's work if you actually go that direction.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, let's go over our reviews here. So we reviewed Batman Rebirth #1.
Yes.
So we were both like, it was okay. What was your review on that one again?
Oh my god, this goes into how bad my memory is
Yeah.
about other things, because I'm sitting here trying to dig through, like, what did I say earlier?
I think we both gave it around a 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that sounds right.
Superman, 2 and a 2.5.
Yeah.
Green Lanterns, 4 from Adam, 4.5
Yeah.
from me. And then we both agree on Green Arrow Rebirth number 1, a solid 3. Fresh performance from there. I think this is the book that probably gave us the most complete package, but didn't have enough meat on the storytelling bones again.
Yeah.
So we're going to end the episode there, but let's tease out what we're going to talk about next episode.
So next episode we're going to tackle week 2 of the Rebirth titles.
Yep, which is Flash Rebirth #1, Aquaman Rebirth #1, Wonder Woman Rebirth #1, and as a bonus, we're going to get into going into the original numberings on Action and Detective Comics. So it'll be Action 957 and Detective Comics 934.
We're just going to review these first issues since it's a jumping on point.
Exactly. And then in that episode, if we have time, we're going to go for Titans #1 as well, which was the only Rebirth book for week 3.
Yeah.
And then next week we will also have a week 4 recap for any books that are shipping next week as well.
I guess. Yeah, next week we're going to have some more Rebirth books.
Okay. So Adam, where can the kids find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Adam S. Messinger. You can find me there on Twitter, Facebook. As I said, last episode I told you I just joined Periscope. Instagram, I mean, you name it, I'm on just about everything.
So the internet knows who you are fully.
Yeah.
Skynet will be able to take control of you through your smartphone. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I'm on Facebook under Jim Mason. I am on Twitter at Jimmers, that's with 3 M's. And then I remember I'm on also, get this, I'm on Instagram.
What?
I turned 47 this Sunday. I'm on the Instagram with all the other kids. And that's Jimmers with 5 M's in that one. So it's
I didn't know
Jimmers.
I'll look you up. I didn't realize you were on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram with 5 M's. I usually post pictures of whatever role-playing game I'm into because I'm into tabletop RPGs.
Okay.
So whenever I play a fancy board game or a tabletop RPG, I'll take a picture of it and then post it to that. And pictures of my cat.
I love cat pictures. I'm a cat guy, so I will enjoy that.
Well, my fat cat will love you looking at her, apparently. So, with that bit of creepiness aside, for Adam Messinger, I'm Jim Mason. We will see you next time. Did you get that? See you? Because we're doing a podcast, audio podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, do yourself a favor. Go to your favorite local comic book shop and go read some comics. Take care.